Are you wondering if you can afford living in Navarre, Florida? Well, get out your calculators because in this video, I'm going to go through everything from housing to utilities to even groceries. Let's get to it. Okay, so this video is a must, right? Whether you're choosing to move here or whether your job or the military is telling you to come down here and move, you need to know what housing is going to cost. You need to know what utilities are going to cost. You need to know how much having kids here is and all of their fun activities, as well as your pets. So we're going to get into every single thing that you can think of the cost that entails that is to live here. And make sure you stick around to the end because I have a huge budgeting tip that has saved my husband and I some headaches and time and money. So we're going to start with the big ticket item first, housing. I'm going to go over purchasing and renting so you get both sides of the story, but I'm going to cheat and look at my notes so that I don't mess up the numbers. According to Data USA, the median household income for Navarre in 2024 was $105,265. Now this shocked me a little bit. So I did this video probably about 3 years ago and the median household income was $80,000. So it's jumped $20,000. That could be inflation just a little bit, but really it's like, I mean, I think it's an influx of all of the people that were moving here. And I just, it's the only thing I could think of really. But let's see, in comparison for the nation, the median household income in 2024, according to the census, was $80,000. So that one didn't change too much from a couple of years ago, but the median household income for Navarre definitely went up. So while I'm super happy for our Navarre residents now, it can make things a little bit limiting for anyone moving in here. But like I said, we're gonna get into all the numbers, so stick around. Okay, so for housing costs. Okay, so for housing, we're gonna start with renting first. We do have quite a few apartment complexes around here, and you can always rent a regular single family home. So I'm gonna give you both those numbers. We've got on the lower end, and it's of the lower end of the bigger apartments, it's called Cayo Grande. And again, I'm gonna cheat and look at my notes so I don't mess up the numbers. Those are between 1 and 2 bedrooms from $1,525 to $1,950 per month. Then we have one that's very high-end luxury apartments called Elevate. That one is 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, and the rent for that one is $1,730 to $2,570. So, big gap there. Now, if you're looking to rent a home, and what I did was I did another 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, so kind of staying in line with that same kind of family dynamic of the apartment complexes. The average right now, and this is, March of 2026, the average 3-bedroom in Navarre standalone home was between $1,600 and $2,520. Now that is a big gap, and it was basically because there was a couple townhomes in there, there was a couple mobile homes in there, and then ones that were in higher end neighborhoods. So you do have a big range there as well. But taking all those numbers together, your average was $2,060 per month. So kind of hold that in your pocket and then we'll talk about buying a home. Okay, so the average sale price for February of 2026 was $461,238. And again, this is just for Navarre. This is not the whole Panhandle, this is just for Navarre. And that looks like it's about $29.91 per month. I guess that's not about, I did the actual numbers. That includes your property taxes and your insurance, just a roundabout estimate of what I usually see. So just shy of $3,000. So if you're comparing the two, renting, you're about $2,000, maybe $2,100, and then buying, you're about $3,000. Now, I'd be remiss to say, obviously, if you're purchasing something that is an investment, it is building equity, all that good stuff. So obviously, go on the side of buying. However, everyone's finances and budget is different, so you do have options here in Navarre. So speaking of curiosity, if you are ever wondering what is available here on the Panhandle, hi, my name is Kristen Weller. I am your local real estate agent here in Navarre, as well as the whole Panhandle, and I would love to help you out to see what fits your needs, your wants, all that good stuff. And all my information is going to be popping up here on the screen. Call, text, or email me, or find me on my socials and DM me. I'd be happy to help you out. Okay, so let's talk about food. Now, groceries are obviously a necessity, and they can vary widely. So what I did was I went onto Walmart in their app, and you can do it online too, obviously, but I went in their app, I added some necessities to my cart so you can kind of see prices compared, I'm gonna tell you what the prices are, and then you can compare them to where you live. I went on some higher brands, I did some great value brands, so I'm gonna give you kind of an estimate. But again, I'm gonna look at my notes so I don't mess up the numbers. So a gallon of milk, now I did Great Value, I didn't do organic or anything like that, so just a gallon of milk, 2%, it was $3.72. Nature's Own, the butter bread, just a loaf of that, was $3.76. A dozen of the Great Value large eggs was $1.67. Ground beef, the market side, but I did do organic grass-fed just to kind of give you a range in case you wanted to see some of those prices. 93% lean was $7.62 per pound. DiGiorno Rising Crust Cheese Pizza was $5.97. A 12-pack of Diet Coke was $8.42. And then a pound of fresh strawberries was $2.72. So again, I did this video a couple years ago, and surprisingly, prices obviously did go up, but not by a lot. The biggest thing that went up, if I remember right, was Coke, the Diet Coke. That went up almost $1, but everything else was only about 20 cents. So not too bad. My family of 5, I've got teenagers in the house. We budget about $1,500 a month, and that's our groceries and our toiletries. So paper towels, shampoo, all that good stuff. We do buy mostly like Great Value brands because we're not super picky on brands. But just to kind of give you we don't go over that too much, but there was a couple of months here and there that we do go over. But for the most part, that suits us. We do shop at Walmart. We do look for deals. So like Winn-Dixie, you can get better meat prices, things like that. Sometimes we do go on base because we are a military family. So, but as a whole, $1,500 for our family of 5 does us well. Okay, let's talk about gas prices. So right now, and it kind of seems to ebb and flow a little bit, gas prices seem to be a little bit high, but I went on gasbuddy.com. Now, if you don't know about GasBuddy, it is a great tool, especially if you're traveling. You can type in your, you can just say go on the app and say find gas, and it'll say, do you want me to find it along your route, or do you want to type in an address, whatever. It's really cool. It gives you all the prices, and they're usually pretty accurate because people go in there, they get points or something, I don't know. But anyway, so according to gasbuddy.com, right now in Navarre, the gas ranges from $3.17 per gallon to $3.49 per gallon. The $3.17 was at a Sefco, and then at one of the neighborhood Walmarts. So just so you know, it wasn't like a Costco or a Sam's Club price. It was like a normal price you can get, but not too bad for nation average. Sales tax, let's touch on that one. So sales tax in Navarre is 7%. I feel like over the nation, like places that I've lived in and traveled, that's about average. There's a couple places that are a little bit higher. Some might come down to 6, but for the most part, I think we're pretty on par with the nation. Next, let's talk about income tax. We don't have any, so thanks tourists for your tourist dollars. No, but seriously, we don't have income tax here in Florida, so that is something that you get to keep a little bit more of your money if you claim Florida as your state of residence. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, healthcare. This is another big cost, especially if you have a family. The numbers were a little bit odd. I couldn't find a true answer. So like I said, when I did this a few years ago, I Googled it and up popped the same answer a bunch of times. This time it didn't. Something that did come up quite frequently was apparently in 2026, there's been a rise in Florida healthcare costs. So we have TRICARE, so we're kind of immune to some of that stuff. So unfortunately, I don't know if that's, the news getting dramatic or if this is something real that's going on. But if you know, drop it down in the comments. I would love to know. So I'm look at my notes to find the actual numbers. So for Florida healthcare, on average, what Floridians are paying is about $489 per month. And they said that was on an individual ACA plan. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. For employer-sponsored family programs, was about $7,000 for the year. And that's according to floridaphoenix.com. So again, the numbers from a couple years ago, they seem to be pretty much, they went up a little bit, but only like 10 to 20 bucks. And again, from nationwide averages, it seemed to be right on the same level as that, maybe actually like 10 or so dollars more. So in theory, we should be pretty equal to what you guys are paying in other areas. Okay, so another big ticket item, especially if you own the home, and sometimes as far as if you're renting too, because you do have to pay for your electric and like cable and internet, things like that, is your utilities. So I'm gonna go over what it costs for like my numbers basically. So we have a 4-bedroom house, 2,500 square feet, again, family of 5. So I'm going to go over what averages I see and then what ours are pretty much are, because it's pretty much average with everything I see, so that you can get kind of a good idea of what that is. So electric bills. So this is a hot topic item, and if you go on any of the Florida the Navarre Facebook pages, you'll see it every once in a while, people talking about their rates going up or things like that. And there's a lot that goes into that, so trust me on that. But on average, and again, for electric, it also depends on how cold you keep your house, how old your house is, how well insulated, that kind of thing. So what we do for our utilities is we average out by the year, and we do this every year to kind of keep it updated. So for our family of 5, our electric, we budget $275 per month. Now, in the winter time, it's down to closer to $100 because we're from the Midwest and we don't run even our heater usually. I think we've run it twice this winter, and it was just because it was really cold. Now, last year when it snowed, we ran it for about a week and a half, but usually we have the windows open because we're crazy. But so that number obviously fluctuates because that's our average for the year. In the summertime months, it'll get up in the 300s, but we keep our house like 72, 75, nothing crazy. I've got friends that keep theirs in the 60s and their bill is much higher, but it's because they're keeping it in the 60s. So kind of keep that in mind. So a good range is probably, that 250 to 300 range for an average size house for electric. Okay, your water bill. Now that one's another one that obviously it ranges between how many people are in the house, if you've got little kids, if you've got older kids, that kind of thing, because little kids like to play in the water, teenagers take forever long showers and whatever. So obviously this is an average, and it kind of depends on, like I said, we've got 5 in our family and our kids take really long showers. But our average water bill is $100. We do have a pool as well, so sometimes we have to fill that up. But on average, I see between $50 and $100. 100 is on the high end, but like I said, we've got 5 people. They're all in sports. They're doing laundry a lot. So, but I would say what I see normally is between 50 to 80-ish, I would say. That's a good rule of thumb for water. Next is gas, so natural gas. So not every home has gas. The ones that do, what I see is between that 50 to 70 range. Ours, we actually have budgeted exactly $58 per month. Now we have our water heater and our stove is gas, and then we do have a generator. Thankfully, we've not had to use it since we've owned it, but it tests itself for like 30 minutes once a week. And then our pool heater is also water or gas. So when we run that, we do see a spike in that, but on average, ours is about $58 for the per month. Internet. This is another one that varies drastically. So we actually just switched to Live Oak Fiber, but I'm noticing between Live Oak Fiber and AT&T Fiber, they're about the same cost, which is about $100 a month. If you go with another company, sometimes it'll get up in the 150s, but for the most part, you can budget about 100, 150. Cable, so we don't have cable, we stream everything, and you can, those prices are all out on the internet, and you probably have your own streaming services that you have anyway. But if you do like cable and DirecTV, that kind of thing, they range so much, but for basic cable, again, I'm gonna cheat, look at my notes, what I found was $80, and that was Cox Cable. But that was basic, like no premium channels, just your the bottom channels. So if you want cable, looking at about $80 a month. Okay, so are all these numbers shocking so far, or is it pretty much what you're used to already? I would love to know down in the comments if these are kind of on par with what you're used to, and if so, where are you from? Or if these numbers are super low or super high, and if so, where are you from? Love to find out. All right, so let's talk about kiddos. So we all know that kids are expensive just in general with all the stuff that they need and growing and clothes and all that stuff. But what I'm gonna go over is sports and daycare, because those numbers tend to kind of change. Now, for sports, we don't have middle school sports in Santa Rosa County. Our neighbors to the east and the west do, but we do not. I've been told all different kinds of reasons and none of them were the same, so I still don't know why we don't, but we don't. So for sports, your options in Navarre are the YMCA, which those numbers, if you're a member or if you're not, kind of differ a little bit, but on average per sport, if you're a member, it's about $60 per sport per kid. And if you are not a member, it's about 100 or 80 to 100, it depends on the sport. And then we also have Navarre Youth Sports Association, or NYSA, and they're right next to each other, kind of, sort of. But the NYSA, that one has an annual fee of just went up $65. And then their sports range from 80 to 120. It just depends on the sport. It's 2 different options, and there's a bunch of different like clubs for different sports, for travel sports. There's dance as well, a couple dance studios here. There's martial arts, I'm sure I'm forgetting something. There's horseback riding too, so there's a bunch of different options as well, but those are like the big ones, the quote unquote normal ones, so you'll see that a lot on like the mommies groups and stuff like that, people talking about that. But they have a ton of sports between those 2 organizations, so when your kiddos are little, you can stick them in there, and when they get bigger and kind of know what sport they love, you can always do like the travel or whatever, but that's kind of the average price ranges. Now for daycare, obviously you've got your like big daycare, big brand name, box names, if you will. And then you've got like your mom and pop type, in-home daycare stuff. And the prices do range considerably. I couldn't find any prices for the smaller in-home daycare, and I'm sure they range a lot anyway. But for your bigger stores or bigger daycares, and I'm gonna cheat, look at my notes, you're looking at $250 a week for your infants, and then $200 a week for toddlers and up. Now, obviously this can change a little bit between each daycare, but on average, that's what I'm noticing people talking about on the mommy groups and stuff. So I think that's pretty standard across the board, if not on the lower end, but you guys tell me. Okay, so now let's get to our other kids, our fur kids. So for pets, we have a ton of veterinary clinics that kind of range from on the cheaper side to on the more expensive side. And there's really everything in between. So that, and we've had pets from in California, New Mexico, here and in the Midwest, and then overseas even. So I've noticed that our prices are pretty much standard with everywhere I've lived as far as veterinary care. We do have a couple pet stores, and they rival prices that you can see online. We actually get our food online. Even one of our dogs has prescription food, so we get all that online. But there are some pet stores around where if you want like fish or little hamsters and stuff, I don't know what they are, but they're like, if you want some exotic pets and stuff like that, there's a couple pet stores around. And then for grooming, so I've had schnauzers pretty much the last 20 years. I've had a schnauzer at least the past 20 years. And what I've noticed for grooming is we're kind of in the middle. So when we lived in California, it was much more expensive. When we lived in New Mexico, it was a little bit cheaper. But I also feel like you kind of got what you paid for in both those areas. Here, we've found one groomer, and that's the only groomer that we've ever used, and I love them. For my schnauzer, it's $75, and for my big guy, just to get him bathed and like trimmed up in his nails and stuff, it's about $50. Which I think that's pretty average. Schnauzers are kind of bougie, and like their cut and stuff, their grooming is a lot. So I feel like that's pretty average from what my family pays in other areas of the country. So I feel like it's pretty standard, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We've only tried one because my pets always love them. So, but in a lot of other places don't have their prices online. But for the most part, I feel like it's pretty average. Okay, so you made it through all the big numbers, and I promised you a budgeting tip. So here it is. Now, don't shoot me because I'm going to say someone's name and a lot of people love and hate. So we use the Dave Ramsey Every Dollar app. Now, love or hate him, he is great for budgeting. We actually followed kind of his snowball plan when we first moved here, because when we lived overseas, we had a YOLO attitude about traveling, and we came with a little bit of credit card debt, and then we bought a house that needed to be remodeled. So there was money involved with that as well. So we kind of used his program a little bit, paying off the debt. He's got all kinds of podcasts and things, YouTube videos and things like that. If you're trying to, save up for a down payment on a house, or even just pay for your closing costs, those kinds of things. And those are all great tools. Not everything's, one size fits all, and you can kind of pull little things here and there to make it fit your situation. But his budgeting app is awesome. I'm not a budgeter. I'm like, let's do the things and we'll find the money somewhere. My husband is the opposite. He's a budgeter, and he's very to the T. So the Every Dollar app fits us both, because I get to see everything that's not an ugly spreadsheet, and it makes sense, and we can have all the categories in the world. Actually, let me show you. Hold on. It's pretty cool. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to. Hold on. Come on. So it's the Every Dollar Budget app. And then you can do like your income, you can do, we haven't put it in there yet, but you can do all of your groceries and everything. Like it's awesome. You can go in there real time, put your receipts in, put your numbers and everything like that. You can set up funds, which like our grocery budget is a fund. So we've set aside $1,500 a month for that. And if we don't use something, it rolls over to the next month. So it's a fund. Then we have another budget, like our entertainment budget. That one is I think we have like $100 there. I don't know. But that's a use it or lose it type thing. So, if we have money in there and we don't use it, then it goes away the next month and we put it into savings. So it's a really great tool if you're trying to pay off debt, if you're trying to save for something. You can see everything real time, and it does literally every dollar. So you put how much you make as income, and then it'll tell you, oh, you need to budget out X amount of dollars left, and it'll tell you everything. So it's really, really cool. I might not be describing it the best, and I'm not getting anything from Dave Ramsey. I am not a Dave Ramsey agent. I'm not. But their app is amazing, and it's free. You don't need to pay. I don't think you need to pay for the updated one, because that pulls from your banks and stuff like that. I don't see the need in that, but you can if you want to. I don't know. We just use a free one. We've been using it for 7 years now, and it's great. So I highly recommend it. Okay, well, that wraps everything up. If you've gained any insight onto how much it costs to live in Navarre, I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss another video that I drop. And don't forget, real estate doesn't have to be complicated. I help my buyers and sellers through the process from start to end, and hopefully we have a little fun along the way. See you next time.